Every club wants to buy a proven goal scorer, a top-level striker, because top-level strikers get you goals, and goals win games. But goal scorers and strikers cost a lot of money. In fact, the absolute elite who guarantee 25 to 30 goals a season, well, they cost about 150 to 200 million pounds. And so, instead, most clubs have to settle for a striker worth about 14 to 15 goals a season, but even they cost 70 million pounds minimum now. So if you're not a top-level club with 70 million pounds lying around, what on earth are you supposed to do? How do you compete? But then I realised, you don't need to spend 70 million pounds on Ivan Toney or Ollie Watkins, no. What you can do instead is hire Newcastle assistant manager, Jason Tindall. Let me explain. So we know the absolute elite strikers cost far too much and you can't really get them. You can't buy Haaland, Kane and Salah, you can't get them. And so there's a tier below that which is far more expensive than it should be because of the scarcity of amazing strikers. Now those players like Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins, that sort of player, might guarantee you about 12, 14, 15 goals a season, but to get that many goals, you've got to pay about 70 million pounds. Now, if you look at how many goals Liverpool scored last season from set pieces, why, by golly gosh, it's 17 goals, which is more than you'd pay for that striker. In fact, Brentford, who might sell Toney for 70 million pounds, they scored 16 goals from set pieces last season. Toney scored 20, and 6 of those were penalties. And the underlying numbers show that he has a non-penalty expected goals of 13.2, so he's not in the elite tier next to those other players at the very top, but he is good. And so if he were to move to somewhere like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, and they create a similar amount of chances for him and he converts at a similar rate, they're buying, for that money, about 14, 15 goals a season, assuming everything goes completely fine. But it's not a coincidence that Arsenal signed a lot of big players in the summer to make them bigger at set pieces in their own box than the other, and Man City also have a lot of big players. They play 4 centre-backs at times. That gives you an advantage at set pieces. Now, Newcastle are one of the teams who have benefited most from set pieces the last couple of seasons, and they've got big tall lads as well. Botman, Scher, Dan Burn, he's very tall. But you know the real secret to their success from free kicks? It's Kieran Trippier, who created the second most chances of any player in the Premier League last season, just below Bruno Fernandes. Now obviously that's pretty amazing for a fullback, so he must be getting up and down that wing, putting in loads and loads and loads of crosses. But no, because actually open play crosses very rarely lead to goals. It says it here. Look, you can see what you want to look at in this graph is the blue line. The blue line tells you that under 1% of open play crosses in the Premier League result in goals. And that's because almost all of Kieran Trippier's chances created come from set pieces. Look at this, almost all of them. James Ward-Prowse is pretty good at them too, but Kieran Trippier creates an awful lot of chances just from set plays. They didn't just sign Trippier for his excellent defensive skills and leadership qualities, it's because he's elite at getting the ball into the box from set pieces, same as James Ward-Prowse, Kevin De Bruyne, Alexander-Arnold, that's what you get from him. So maybe instead of signing a 70 million pound striker, what you should do instead is sign a very, very good set piece deliverer. Except you also have to find a player who's very good at the other stuff too that you need, and they're very rare, which is why Kieran Trippier is so valuable. Sign him. And maybe you also sign some more players who are big lads, so you can utilise their strength and power and height. But it's not all about the physical attributes of players to be good at set pieces. No, no, no. To be good at set pieces, what you must do is harness the power of the forest. You need the cunning of the humble fox, the wisdom of the majestic owl, and the power of a weasel. My point is, you don't need a top-level striker. What you need is an excellent set-piece coach. Let's look at Brentford. They do not have the budget of their rivals, who they are not only competing with, but also beating quite regularly, because Brentford have harnessed the power of the forest and are amazing at set pieces. In fact, they scored 16 last season, as well we know. That's 27% of the goals they scored all of last season, according to Opta measured data. Aha, but here's the thing, because Opta measured data doesn't tell you things like penalties won from set pieces, and it also doesn't tell you penalties won or goals scored from short throw-ins. Long throw-ins maybe, but not short throw-ins, and every single one of these is a set piece. Take, for example, Brentford's second goal of the season this season. Now here they are, playing against Fulham, and they're lining up for a short throw, but it's not a short throw, it's actually a long throw, and just in doing this, they make Fulham's defensive shape change from one situation to another, so they're in transition. So the ball is launched towards this near post from the long throw, and of course, because it's basically a set piece, they push the centre-backs up for this little bit. Then the ball is knocked back from the centre-backs into the middle of the goal, the 6-yard box, and is very, very close to being a goal, but instead goes behind for a corner. So they've won a corner from the throw-in, which almost was a goal. And here's the corner, and even more weaseling, because they have a left footer and a right footer. It could be an in-swinger or an out-swinger, and that will affect how Fulham set up defensively in the box for the corner. And Jensen takes an out-swinging corner with his right foot, so it comes across the box, it misses the first man at the near post zone, goes all the way across to Aaron Hickey on the edge of the box, and so it looks a bit like a miss kick, but I assure you this is not a miss kick. Every single step you're about to see from now on is entirely planned and all part of a devious, cunning weasel plan. Because what you have here is Aaron Hickey, the man in space on the edge of the box, and Rico Henry, who's one of the best deliverers of the ball in the entire team. The ball goes all the way across to Jensen, and then here's Henry here, the last man on the pitch. You can't really see the entire pitch on the screen grab. And this is what it looks like. Look at all the space behind that last man. This is Rico Henry, the very last man here. This is what Brentford do. They push everyone forward, so the opposition has to bring everyone back. So the ball is swung out, an out-swinger from here, right-footed across. It misses the first man, goes over to Aaron Hickey in space. Now, here's the part of the plan, because Rico Henry was here, but what he does, he'll run backwards into more space. And what that will do, when the ball goes over, it gives Fulham a chance to then push out. So they'll all start pushing out of their defensive shape into a transitional shape. They're not going to be in their full defensive setup, which is important. Because then when Hickey takes the ball and waits for them all to come out, he can then play it back to Rico Henry, who will now be in loads of space. Look at all the space he's got, absolutely loads. He can then hook the ball into the box towards the centre-backs who are now in the box as part of the play. You've got big, tall lads. That's the ones you want at the back post or in the box for a set piece. And so Rico Henry hits the ball into here, my lovely line I've drawn, and then you've got Norgard, I think, is at the back post. He then heads it back to Kevin Shad, who is on his own in space on the edge of the box, because as the ball's gone back, Fulham have then pushed back the other way. They're going back, forward, left, right. They can't get into a set shape. And everything Brentford are doing is entirely on purpose. And because Shad's in space, he's the danger man. So of course then what happens is Fulham players start to come towards him, and that leaves Wissa completely free outside Tim Ream. Wissa gets on the ball, Tim Ream brings him down. It's a penalty. It's not that they've planned to win a penalty, but they've put themselves in a position where Wissa could have maybe scored, got a chance on goal, all from that throw into corner to penalty situation. Here's another example. Here's a throw in almost exactly the same place as the last time. Now this time, you've got the striker who starts on the blind side of Cucurella and makes a run into this space in front of him. And in doing so, drags Cucurella with him towards the throw-in player. So the player can throw the ball to the striker, and then because of the gap that he's created in behind, that means he can play the 1-2 with him into the space that that run has created because of the run from behind. So that's all planned. Then, of course, the ball is hooked into the box, and who's up there to score a header? One of the centre-backs, Ethan Pinnock. So to throw in that situation, how many times would you see a centre-back up for that? It's a set piece. And they've got the centre-backs to the back post to slam the ball on the goal. Everything is planned. You might think it's not, but it is. If you ever watch Brentford live, you'll notice they set up in one way, then have another different setup, and then another setup for the same corner. So the defenders do not know where to go, who to mark, what to do. And all of it is a cunning ruse. It's weaseling forest power. Because once more, we may have to change our perception of football. We think of it as a free-flowing, open game where everything happens all the time, all at once. But this gives a huge advantage to better individual players. Because if it's down to the players, the manager can tell them what he wants, but ultimately it's down to them. But if it's a set piece, then the manager and the set piece coach and the analysts can make every single free kick, corner, throw-in look exactly how they want each step of the way, so they can control every aspect of it. And that can help them create chances because they're controlling how the opposition team and their own team are moving. And that's why teams like Brentford, Newcastle and Spurs dedicate so much time in training and coaching to set pieces and why they're so good at them. But here's my final point. A striker will get you lots of goals. A really good free kick deliverer will get you lots of chances created. But a set piece coach will also help you not concede lots of goals. And that's where our set piece coach heroes really come into their own, because did you know that since the start of last season, no club have a better expected goal difference per 100 set pieces than Newcastle? Their XG per 100 is third best in the league behind Brentford and Everton, and their expected goals against per 100 is second best behind Tottenham Hotspur. And Newcastle qualified for the Champions League last season way ahead of schedule, and a huge reason for this is because they were so good at set pieces. They've got big tall lads assembled as part of their squad. They've got Kieran Trippier, an elite level deliverer of set pieces. And they also have a set piece coach who's creating lots of movement off the ball and loads of weird setups. That means they're very, very good at attacking set plays and excellent defensively. 23% of Newcastle's goals last season were just from set pieces. But here's the thing, that set piece data only tells you things like free kicks, corners, and long throws. It doesn't include short throws. Or if you have a corner and you take a few passes and it goes into open play, that becomes open play. At certain points, the data does not represent how good they are at set pieces, because because everything is very devious and a few steps ahead. It might be a 10-pass move is part of the set piece, and that's not represented in the paper. So those teams, Newcastle, Brentford, they're actually much better set pieces than we even see on the paper. So what does this all mean? Well, it means your teams need to buy a £70 million striker at all. So here is my official 5-point plan for success for professional football clubs.
1.
Hire Bernardo Cueva from Brentford. Other set-piece coaches are available. Gianni Vio's really good. Jason Tyndall.
2.
Spend the appropriate amount of time on training set pieces. If you score 25 to 33% of your goals to set pieces, 25 to 33% of your training should be on set pieces.
3.
Recruit some tall, strong, physical, aggressive players.
4.
Recruit at least one very, very good free kick taker, a deliverer.
5.
Keep on trucking.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League football story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.